Hey, you. Tired of just scratching the surface with AI news?
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
Totally. Because today, we're really plunging into something that might fundamentally reshape how you think about artificial intelligence. We're diving deep into a pretty bold proposition from Google's DeepMind unit.
Which is?
They're suggesting AI has, well, in a real sense, moved beyond the limits of human knowledge already.
It's a huge idea, really pivotal. For years, AI progress felt kind of tethered to us, to human ingenuity.
Right, the benchmarks we set, the data we curated.
Exactly. And DeepMind is now saying, well, maybe that very reliance on our past understanding, that might be the biggest roadblock now.
Holding it back.
Yeah, limiting its future potential.
Yeah.
So the key thing for you listening is that current AI, it's fundamentally reactive. It's limited by the past data we've made and the questions we already know how to ask. It prevents real discovery.
Exactly. And to really get our heads around this, we're looking closely at a recent paper. It's called Welcome to the Era of Experience.
Ah, yes, from David Silver and Richard Sutton. Big names.
Huge. Silver, the mind behind AlphaZero. Sutton, a Turing Award winner. Pioneer in reinforcement learning.
So, serious credentials. This isn't just some random blog post.
No way. It's part of an upcoming MIT press book, and it really lays out their vision for a new direction.
Okay.
So, our mission for this deep dive is basically this. Unpack DeepMind's argument about why current AI might be hitting a wall, and then explore their proposed solution, this streams approach, learning through direct experience.
Sounds good. Where do they start?
Okay, let's get into it. They start by acknowledging the impressive stuff AI does now, especially large language models, ChatGPT, the things people are using every day.
Sure, very capable.
But, and this is the critical point they make, these models are really designed just to answer our specific questions based on the huge piles of text and code they trained on.
Right, they're like incredibly sophisticated mirrors reflecting existing human knowledge, echo chambers, almost.
That's a good way to put it, masters of response. But DeepMind argues this reliance on what they call human prejudgment.
Meaning?
The biases, the limitations baked into the training data, plus those short one-off interactions we have with them.
Like asking a single question.
Exactly. That actually puts a ceiling on what AI can do. It can only remix what we've already created, answer questions we've already thought of.
And connecting that back for the listener, it means AI might be missing out on discovering totally new, maybe much better ways to solve problems, strategies we haven't even conceived of.
Right.
Because the way we interact now, those short prompts and answers, it just doesn't encourage that kind of long-term, independent exploration.
It's almost like talking to someone with no memory, right? You ask, they answer, then boom, blank slate for the next question.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. DeepMind really flags this lack of memory, this lack of continuity between interactions as a major barrier. It stops AI from truly adapting and evolving over time. They even bring up AlphaZero, the AI that mastered chess and Go.
Through reinforcement learning, right? Playing itself millions of times.
Precisely, and that's their example of AI doing amazing things by exploring the game space independently. AlphaZero basically showed us that AI, if left to explore, can find solutions even the best humans never saw.
Okay.
The worry now is that current gen AI, while amazing in other ways, has kind of stepped away from that self-discovery element.
But AlphaZero worked best in those full information games. Wasn't that the point? Chess, Go, clear rules, everything's visible.
That's right. The paper notes that limitation. When generative AI like ChatGPT arrived, the focus shifted towards handling messy, real-world language.
And DeepMind thinks we lost something important in that shift.
They suggest we might have inadvertently, sacrificed something crucial. While Gen AI is brilliant at handling spontaneous human input, they argue it largely discarded that self-discovery part, the reinforcement learning aspect that made AlphaZero so groundbreaking.
So it became more about mimicking us and responding, less about exploring on its own.
That seems to be their core argument, yeah. Heavy reliance on human data, not autonomous learning from experience.
Okay, so if that's the problem with the current path, these inherent limits, what's the alternative? What is this streams idea exactly?
All right, so this leads to the big question. How does AI break free? How does it get beyond just repackaging what humans already know and actually innovate?
Yeah.
The streams approach, as they call it, imagines AI agents engaging with the world continuously, an unbroken flow of experience over long timescales.
Not just answering one-off prompts.
No, interacting with their environment, maybe formulating their own goals based on signals they're constantly getting from that environment.
Okay, wait. Formulating their own goals, how does that work?
Well, maybe formulating is too strong initially. It's more about responding to environmental signals over time, which shapes behavior towards beneficial outcomes. Think long-term trends, not just immediate answers. The crucial shift for you, the listener, is moving AI from passively answering questions to actively learning through continuous engagement.
So less like a quick Q&A, more like lifelong learning, like how we humans operate.
Exactly like that. The analogy to human learning is really central here. We don't just learn from flashcards, right? We gather experiences over our whole lives, and that shapes our understanding, drives our long-term goals.
And the streams idea tries to mimic that for AI.
That's the core concept. Build on reinforcement learning, like AlphaZero, but make it much broader, more open-ended.
Okay, so how does the reinforcement learning part work in this broader context? It's still about rewards.
Precisely. The AI agent operates within what they call a world model.
A kind of simulation.
Sort of, yeah. Think of it as the AI's internal sandbox, a simplified version of reality where it can try stuff out safely, build a basic understanding before it interacts with the messy real world.
Okay.
So it takes actions in this model, or eventually the real world, and gets rewards based on the outcomes, positive or negative feedback.
And this trains it, guides it.
Yes, continuous feedback. It guides the AI to figure out what behaviors lead to good outcomes, whatever good means in that context.
And these rewards, they're not always a human clicking good job, right? The paper talks about real world signals.
Right, that's key. They list a whole bunch of potential reward signals. Costs going down, errors reducing, maybe health metrics improving, climate data shifting, profits increasing, even exam results getting better.
Things that just happen naturally from interacting with the world.
Exactly. The environment itself provides this rich, continuous stream of feedback. That's the stream of experience.
And you mentioned the world model helps get this started. How?
Yeah, think of the world model as giving the AI agent an initial, maybe rough understanding of how things work. Cause and effect.
Like a basic physics engine or a social interaction model?
Could be.
Yeah.
It lets the agent make initial predictions. If I do X, Y might happen, and then it can test those in the real world. The feedback it gets then helps it refine that world model over time. Better model, better predictions, better actions.
It sounds like, are we already seeing tiny steps toward this? Like those AI agents that can browse the web?
That's a really important connection. DeepMind specifically mentions things like web browsing AI. OpenAI's deep research is an example they give as a significant early step.
How so?
Because it's a move away from AI only responding to direct human prompts. It's starting to interact more autonomously with the world using the same digital tools we do.
So the next step is they won't just browse, they'll actively learn from those interactions using these reinforcement learning ideas. Gathering data, getting feedback constantly.
That's the trajectory they're mapping out, yes. Deeper engagement, continuous learning from the interaction itself.
But wait, if the agents become more autonomous in their learning, where do humans fit in? Do we just set them loose?
No, that's a crucial point. DeepMind stresses that humans are still vital. We're the ones who define the high-level goals.
Okay, so we set the destination, but the AI figures out the best route through its own experience.
That's the idea. Connecting it back to you again, imagine telling your AI assistant, help me get fitter, or help me really learn Spanish this time.
Right. Vague goals.
Exactly. The AI agent then uses its ongoing interactions and those reward signals, maybe data from your fitness tracker, maybe your scores on Spanish quizzes, to autonomously figure out the best strategies for you to achieve those goals.
So human intention is still the ultimate guidepost, the top level goal.
Precisely. Human feedback, human goals set the overall direction.
Okay, that opens up some pretty wild possibilities for AI assistants then.
Right.
Much more than current chatbots.
Absolutely. The paper talks about the potential for long-term, really sustained support. Imagine an AI health assistant tracking things over years, not just giving one-off advice.
Offering truly personalized long-term preventative care, maybe.
That's the kind of potential. Or an educational AI that really gets your learning style and guides you through years of study, adapting constantly.
Wow, and they even mention science agents pursuing huge goals autonomously.
Yeah, that was mind-bending. The idea of AI agents tackling massive challenges like discovering new materials or figuring out how to reduce CO2.
By analyzing real-world data
And suggesting experiments, maybe even running simulations or controlling lab equipment eventually, analyzing the results, learning, iterating. A massive leap.
It really is. And DeepMind seems to think this whole experiential learning approach might even outperform AI that's designed specifically to reason like humans.
They do go there, yeah.
Yeah.
They suggest that even our best attempts at creating thinking AI, often based on mimicking human language and logic, are still fundamentally limited.
So what did they buy?
By the history of human thought itself. They give these thought experiments. Imagine an AI trained only on ancient human knowledge. Its physics might involve, animism or gods moving things around.
Right, because that was the data then.
Exactly. Even much later frameworks, like classical Newtonian mechanics, turned out to be incomplete.
So the argument is, learning directly from raw experience, from the world's feedback, could lead to a more objective, maybe even more advanced understanding, unburdened by our historical baggage and assumptions.
That's the provocative idea, potentially a more direct path to understanding reality.
This paints a picture of the paper calls it a profoundly different future.
It certainly does. And with that kind of transformative potential, obviously there are big things to consider. Risks, even.
Like what?
Yeah.
What do they acknowledge?
Well, the obvious one is jobs. If AI can learn complex tasks autonomously through experience, that could cause significant shifts in employment. That's a major societal issue to grapple with.
Sure.
But they also raise a more subtle point. As these agents pursue long-term goals, maybe interacting with the world in ways we don't fully track, will there be fewer chances for us to intervene, to steer things if they start going off course?
Less human oversight in the moment-to-moment learning.
Potentially, yeah. More autonomy could mean less direct control points for us.
That is thought-provoking. Did they offer any counterpoint to that? Any mitigation?
They did offer a slightly more optimistic angle. They suggested that as these agents get better at learning from experience, including experience interacting with us, they might also learn to recognize when their actions are causing humans concern or distress, and adapt their behavior to avoid that. Learning to be a beneficial partner becomes part of the experience stream.
So the AI learns social constraints through experience, too. Interesting.
That's an intriguing possibility. And then there's the sheer scale of data involved.
Right. You mentioned the world provides this continuous stream. How much data are we talking about?
They believe the amount and, crucially, the quality of this experiential data, direct feedback from interaction, will eventually just dwarf all the human-generated data we currently use. Wikipedia, Reddit, all the books.
Everything we've written down.
Yeah. Experiential data could be vastly larger and perhaps more informative for certain kinds of learning.
And the implication there is, if AI has that much more data and better ways to learn from it.
Well, the implication, connecting it for you, the listener, is that this combination could eventually lead to AI surpassing human intelligence in many areas. It hints strongly at the path towards AGI, artificial general intelligence, or maybe even superintelligence. Wow.
David Silver actually talked more about that specific possibility on a DeepMind podcast recently. Worth checking out if people want to go deeper on the AGI angle. Okay, so let's try and bring this all together. The core message from DeepMind, the big shift they're proposing.
It's moving AI from passive processing to active learning. Learning by doing, by experiencing the world directly, not just reading about it in human-created text.
Right, so the key takeaways for everyone listening.
I'd say, 1, recognize the potential limitations we're seeing in current AI training. 2, grasp the huge promise of this experiential learning, this streams idea. 3, remember that human goals are still crucial for setting the direction.
And 4.
And 4, be aware of the potentially massive transformative advancements this could bring along with, yes, some significant new challenges and risks to navigate.
Okay, so as you process all this, here's something to think about. What does it really mean if AI learns and even sets intermediate goals based on its own ongoing experience, not just our explicit instructions?
Yeah, how does that change our relationship with technology, with the world itself?
What kinds of ethical guidelines, what frameworks will we need when AI isn't just a tool answering questions, but an agent actively exploring, learning, and building its own understanding of reality?
That's a lot to chew on.
Definitely. We really encourage you to keep exploring this. It's moving fast and it's deeply fascinating. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.